My name is Mike, and if you're hearing this, it's probably because something happened to me. Or you found this recording, and you're wondering what the hell happened out of my grandmother's place. Just be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. It started about 3 weeks ago. My grandma passed away. She was old, lived alone out in the country, about an hour outside of Columbus, Ohio. Nice property, a couple of acres, but the house was a mess, a real hoarder situation. My mom was the only child, so it fell to me to help her clear the place out before we could sell it. Mom couldn't handle it emotionally, so most of the heavy lifting, the physical stuff, landed on me. I took a week off work. The plan was to get in there, sort through the junk, haul most of it to the dump, and get the house ready for an estate sale company to come in and handle the rest. The first few days were just exhausting. Piles of old newspapers, broken furniture, boxes of clothes that smelled like mothballs. It was depressing. On the third day, I was in the attic. It was hot as hell up there, probably 100 degrees. I was just shoving boxes toward the trapdoor for my buddy Tom to catch. Tom was helping me out for beer and pizza. Good guy. I pushed this one small, beat-up cardboard box. It wasn't taped shut, just had the flaps folded over. When I shoved it, the box hit the attic frame and tipped over. Stuff spilled out. I climbed down the ladder to help Tom pick it up. It was mostly just old baby clothes, yellowed and stiff. But then I saw the doll. It was a kid's doll, maybe 1.5 feet long. One of those old-fashioned ones with a hard plastic head and a soft cloth body. It was dressed in a little blue sailor suit, the kind you'd see in old photos. The plastic head was scuffed up. Its painted hair was a weird matted brown. But the eyes were glass, and they were open, just staring at the attic ceiling. Tom held it up. "Whoa, check out Chucky," he laughed. I laughed too. "Yeah, creepy, just toss it in the burn pile." But my mom came in right then, heard me. "No, don't," she said. She looked tired. "That was your Uncle Paul's. Put it with the things for the estate sale. Maybe some collector will want it." I didn't even know I had an Uncle Paul. Mom never talked about him. When I asked, she just got quiet and said he died when he was little, a long time ago. That was it. She went back to the kitchen. So the doll didn't go in the burn pile. It went into the keep for sale pile in the living room. I put it on a dusty old sideboard, leaning against the wall. Every time I walked through that room, I felt like I had to look at it. It was just there. Those glass eyes followed you. I know everyone says that about dolls, but this was different. It wasn't a trick of the light. It felt deliberate. The next day, Tom was helping me move a heavy dresser. We were in the bedroom, grunting and swearing, when we both heard it. A clear, high-pitched giggle. A little kid's laugh. It came from the living room. We froze. We just looked at each other. "You hear that?" Tom whispered. "Yeah." My heart was starting to pound. The house was empty except for us. The nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. We walked out to the living room, slow. Nothing. Just the stacks of junk. The doll was still on the sideboard, in the same spot, but it was facing us now. I swear I had left it leaning against the wall, facing the couch. Now it was facing the hallway, right at us. Tom laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. Wind must have blown it over or something. "There's no wind in here, Tom," I said. "The house was shut up tight." He shrugged it off. We went back to work. I tried to shake it off too, but I couldn't. That laugh was so clear. It wasn't a creaking house or an animal. That night, I stayed over. Mom had gone home, and I figured I'd get an early start. I was sleeping on an old army cot in what used to be the dining room. In the middle of the night, I woke up. It was pitch black, and I heard it again. Not a laugh this time. It was a whisper. Just one word, soft and hissy, like a kid trying to keep a secret. Mike. I sat up so fast I nearly tipped the cot over. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam shot across the room. Nothing. The door to the living room was open. I shined the light in there. The sideboard was there. The doll was gone. I got the hell out of there. I drove to a motel off the highway and didn't sleep a wink. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, an old house playing tricks. The next morning I went back, embarrassed but determined. I had a job to do. The first thing I did was check the living room. The doll was back on the sideboard, in the same spot, leaning against the wall, facing the couch. That was it. I was done. I called my mom and told her I was done, that she needed to get the estate sale people in now. She argued, but I didn't care. I went home. A week later, the estate sale happened. I didn't go. Mom called me afterwards. She said it went okay, but one thing was weird. An old woman bought the doll, paid $20 for it. $20 for a piece of junk. The woman was a regular, a collector of old toys, apparently. Mom said she was real happy with it. Yesterday, my mom called me crying. She could barely get the words out. She said the woman who bought the doll was dead. The police had come to her house, asking questions because her name was in the woman's address book. The woman's daughter found her. She had fallen down the basement stairs in her own home. The daughter told the police her mom was in perfect health. It didn't make any sense. But what made the daughter really lose it, what she kept screaming about to the cops, was the doll. She said her mom kept that stupid doll on the fireplace mantel in the living room. But after she died, when the daughter was waiting for the ambulance, she saw the doll on the floor at the top of the basement stairs, just lying there, face down, as if it was looking down into the dark. The daughter swears she didn't move it. I hung up with my mom and just sat there. I thought about my Uncle Paul, the one I never knew who died when he was little. I thought about how he died. I asked my mom once years ago and she wouldn't say. Now I don't want to know. I really don't. The thing is, I'm telling you this from my truck. I'm parked at the end of my own driveway. I just got home from work. The light is on in my living room. I don't remember leaving any lights on. And there's a box on my front porch. A small, beat-up cardboard box. No shipping label, no return address. Just my name written on the top in black marker. I'm not going in there. I'm not. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for the sun to come up.
So, my girlfriend Jenny moved in with me about 2 months ago. I'm Dave, by the way. I live in a duplex over in Arlington, Texas. Nothing special, just a 2-bedroom place with a little backyard. Jenny's a single mom. She has a little girl, Lily. She's 4. Cute kid, little shy, but she warmed up to me pretty quick. When Jenny moved in, she brought all her stuff, obviously. Clothes, kitchen stuff, Lily's toys, lots of toys. One of them was this doll. Lily called her Susie. It was one of those baby dolls, you know, the ones with the hard plastic head and limbs and a soft fabric body. It was dressed in a little pink sleeper. Looked pretty old. The plastic was a little yellowed and its painted hair was all rubbed off in patches. I asked Jenny about it one night. I said, "Where'd Lily get that creepy old doll?" She laughed and said it was hers when she was a kid. Her own grandmother gave it to her. She said she used to carry it everywhere, and when Lily was born, her mom sent it to her. She thought it was sweet, a family heirloom. I thought it was ugly, but whatever. Lily loved the thing, wouldn't go to sleep without it. The first weird thing happened about a week after they moved in. I work nights sometimes, dispatch for a trucking company. I got home around 2 in the morning. The apartment was dark, quiet. I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. On my way back to the bedroom, I passed by Lily's room. Her door was open a crack. I stopped. I could see her bed from the hallway. She was asleep, curled up, but sitting on the floor next to her bed, facing the door, was that doll. It was just sitting there, propped up against the wall. I knew Lily slept with it. She always had it in the bed with her. I figured she must have thrown it out of the crib or something in her sleep. Didn't think much of it. I went to bed. The next morning, at breakfast, I asked Lily, "Hey, sweetie, how come Susie was on the floor last night? You kick her out of bed?" Lily looked at me with those big eyes and shook her head. "No," she said, real serious. "She was watching for me." Jenny just smiled and said she has an active imagination. I let it go. But it kept happening. I'd find the doll in weird places, not just on the floor. One time, I came home and it was sitting on the kitchen counter, staring at the living room. Another time, it was on top of the TV. I asked Jenny if she was moving it, maybe cleaning up. She said no. She said she'd find it in strange spots too. She'd put it back in Lily's room, and the next day it would be somewhere else. We both just figured Lily was sleepwalking or getting up in the night and moving it without remembering. It's a small apartment. Kids do weird stuff. Then the noises started. It was maybe 3 in the morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, but something woke me up. It was a sound, a kind of scratching, like fingernails on cardboard. It was coming from the living room. I laid there for a minute, listening. Scratch. Pause. Scratch. Pause. Scratch. It was too steady to be a mouse. I got up, grabbed a baseball bat I keep by the bed, and crept out there. The living room was dark. I flipped on the light. Nothing. Everything was normal. Couch, coffee table, TV, and then I saw it. The doll. It was sitting on the floor in the corner of the room, facing the wall. Just sitting there, its back to me, and its little plastic arm was moving. It was reaching out, and its little plastic fingers were slowly scraping against the wall. I just stood there, holding the bat, my heart hammering in my chest. The scratching didn't stop when I turned the light on. It just kept going. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I shouted, "Hey!" and stomped my foot. The arm stopped. It just went still. The doll didn't turn around or anything. It just stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in the kitchen with the light on, drinking coffee until the sun came up. I told Jenny about it in the morning. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said I must have been dreaming, tired, stressed from work, my mind playing tricks. I decided to just keep an eye on it. A few nights later, I woke up to Lily screaming, not just crying, screaming. I jumped out of bed and ran to her room. Jenny was right behind me. We flipped on the light. Lily was sitting up in her bed, sobbing, pointing at the corner of the room. "Susie won't stop looking at me," she wailed. The doll was on her dresser, sitting up, staring right at the bed. I know I had put that doll in the toy box before she went to sleep. Jenny had seen me do it. We both put Lily to bed, and the doll was in the box. Now it was on the dresser. Jenny picked Lily up, trying to calm her down. I walked over to the dresser and grabbed the doll. It felt cold. Colder than it should have been. I took it to the kitchen and shoved it in a cabinet under the sink, way in the back, and shut the door tight. I went back and told Jenny I threw it in the outside trash can. I lied. I didn't want her to think I was losing it, and I didn't want Lily to get more scared. The next morning, I woke up before Jenny. I went to the kitchen to make coffee. The cabinet door under the sink was wide open, and sitting right in the middle of the kitchen floor, facing the hallway that led to the bedrooms, was the doll. That was it. I snapped. I grabbed the doll, took it out back, and threw it in the big metal dumpster the complex uses. I watched it land on top of some trash bags. I went back inside and felt better for about an hour. That afternoon, I was in the living room watching football. Jenny was in the bedroom reading. Lily was in her room playing. She came walking out into the living room. She was holding the doll. It was clean, not a speck of dumpster dirt on it. She looked at me and smiled. Susie was waiting for me outside my door, she said. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights on and the bat in my lap. Around 2 a.m., I heard Jenny scream. Not Lily, Jenny. I ran to the bedroom. Jenny was sitting up in bed, shaking, her hand over her mouth. She just pointed at the door. The doll was in the doorway, standing up, just standing there on its 2 little cloth legs, leaning against the doorframe like a person would. Its glass eyes were fixed on the bed, on Jenny. I didn't think. I grabbed the doll and I started to rip it. I tore the cloth body. Stuffing went everywhere. I pulled the plastic head off and threw it against the wall. It cracked. I stomped on the arms, the legs. I destroyed it. I threw all the pieces in a trash bag, tied it up, and drove it to a gas station dumpster 5 miles away. I threw it in and drove home. Jenny was a mess. Lily was crying. We all tried to calm down. Jenny kept saying, "What the hell is going on, Dave?" I didn't have an answer. We fell asleep holding each other, exhausted. I woke up this morning. The sun was coming through the window. For a second, I felt relief. It was over. I sat up in bed, and I looked at the dresser across the room. The doll was sitting on the dresser. It was whole, not a scratch on it. The little pink sleeper was perfect. The glass eyes were looking right at me. And Jenny's side of the bed was empty. The sheets were cold. She's gone. They're both gone. Lily's room is empty. Her clothes, her toys, everything. It's like they were never here. The only thing in the whole apartment that looks like it belongs to them is that doll sitting on my dresser, staring at me. I don't know where they are. I don't know if I'll ever see them again. I just know I'm not the one who brought that doll back. My name is Kevin, and I live over in Portland, Maine. Not the fancy part. I got a small house near the water, a fixer-upper I've been working on for years. I'm a carpenter, so I do okay. It's just me and my daughter, Emma. She's 8. Her mom took off when she was a baby, so it's been me and her against the world. She's a good kid, tough like me. Last spring, I was working on a job over in South Portland, remodeling a kitchen for this older couple. They were moving down to Florida, retiring. The wife, Mrs. Henderson, she was a sweet lady, always bringing me coffee, talking my ear off. The last day of the job, she came into the kitchen while I was packing up my tools. She had a cardboard box in her hands. "Kevin," she says, "you've been so good to us. I was cleaning out the attic and found some old toys. I know you have a little girl. Would she like any of these? Save me a trip to the Goodwill." I looked in the box, just old junk mostly. Some plastic cars, a couple of beat-up picture books. But right on top was a doll, one of those old baby dolls with the hard plastic head and the soft body. It was wearing a little red and white striped dress. Its hair was this weird orangey yellow yarn, all matted down. The eyes were glass, blue as could be, wide open. It gave me the creeps, honest. But Emma, she loves that kind of stuff. I figured, what the hell? I picked out the doll and a couple of the books. I thanked Mrs. Henderson and took 'em home. Emma loved that doll right away, named her Rosie, carried it everywhere, watched TV with it, ate breakfast with it propped up in the chair next to her. I thought it was a little weird, but harmless. It was just a doll. I told myself to stop being so superstitious. The first thing that happened was about a week later. I came home from work, and Emma was already home from school. She was in the living room watching cartoons. The doll was on the couch next to her. I said hi, kissed her on the head, and went to the kitchen to start dinner. I opened the fridge to get some chicken, and I froze. There was a butcher knife stuck in the drywall above the kitchen counter. Not laying on the counter, stuck in the wall like someone had taken it and jammed it in there hard. The blade was buried a good inch into the plaster. I yelled for Emma. She came running in. I pointed at the knife, trying to keep my voice calm. "Emma, did you do this?" She looked at it, then back at me, and shook her head. Her eyes were wide. "No, Daddy. Rosie doesn't like it when you leave." What? What do you mean Rosie doesn't like it?
She just shrugged and went back to the living room. I pulled the knife out of the wall. There was a hole there. I stared at it for a long time. That knife was kept in a block on the counter. It wasn't easy to pull out. An 8-year-old girl couldn't have shoved it into the wall like that. It would have taken a lot of force. I didn't say anything to Emma. I just patched the hole the next day and tried to forget about it. But I started watching that doll, paying more attention. A few nights later, I woke up to use the bathroom. It was around 3 a.m. I walked past Emma's room. Her door was open a crack, like always. I peeked in to check on her. She was asleep, curled up, but the doll wasn't in bed with her. It was sitting on her dresser, facing the door, facing me. Its little plastic hands were resting on its cloth legs. I opened the door and walked in. I picked the doll up. It felt cold. Not just room temperature cold, but cold like it had been in the freezer. I put it in the toy box in the corner and shut the lid. I went back to bed. The next morning, I was making pancakes. Emma came in, rubbing her eyes. She was holding the doll. I asked her, "Hey, didn't I put Rosie in the toy box last night?" She looked at me, real serious. "She didn't want to stay in there, Daddy. She told me." My blood ran cold. "She told you? What did she say, honey?" She tilted her head, like she was listening to something. Then she looked at me. She said, "You're not my real daddy." That hit me hard. It was such a cruel thing to say, something an adult would say, not a kid. I forced a laugh. "That's silly, Emma. Of course I'm your daddy." She just looked at me with those big eyes and didn't say anything else. She sat down to eat her pancakes, and the whole time, the doll was sitting on the table, staring at me. A couple weeks went by. Things got weirder. I'd find the doll in different places every morning, on top of the fridge, inside the bathroom sink. Once, I found it on the floor of my closet, buried under my work boots. Emma swore she wasn't moving it. She said Rosie walked there by herself. I started getting really creeped out. I thought about getting rid of it, throwing it in the ocean. But I was scared of how Emma would react. She was obsessed with that thing.
Then, the dog disappeared. We had an old black lab, Buster. He was a good dog, gentle, slept on the foot of Emma's bed every night. One morning, he was just gone. The back door was still locked, the fence was secure, no sign of him. Emma was heartbroken. I was too. I looked everywhere for days. Never found him. A week after Buster disappeared, I came home early from work. I had a headache, wanted to lie down. I walked in the front door and the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Emma?" I called out. No answer. I walked to her room. The door was closed. That was weird. She never closed her door. I opened it. Emma was sitting cross-legged on her bed. She had the doll in her lap, but she wasn't just holding it. She was petting it, stroking its yarn hair real gentle, and she was humming a little tune, a song I'd never heard before. It was high-pitched and kind of wrong. The notes didn't go together right. On the floor, in front of the bed, was a pile of stuff. It was Buster's collar, and next to it was a big clump of black fur, and there was blood, a lot of blood, dried into the carpet. I felt like I was going to be sick. "Emma?" I whispered. "What happened? Where's Buster?" She stopped humming and looked up at me. She smiled. It was her normal smile, but on her face right then, with that blood on the floor, it was the most terrifying thing I ever saw. "He's with Rosie's other friends now," she said, like it was nothing. "She says he was loud.
He kept barking at her at night. She doesn't like loud things. I just stood there frozen. My little girl was sitting in a pool of blood, talking about this doll like it was a person, like it had told her to hurt our dog. I looked at the doll in her lap. Its glass eyes seemed to be looking right through me. And I swear on my life, its painted-on mouth, that little red smile, it seemed wider than it was before. I don't know what to do. I'm in my truck now, parked down the street from my own house. I called the police, told them there was an accident. They're on their way. I don't know what I'm going to tell them. I don't know how to explain the blood. I don't know how to explain that look in my daughter's eyes. All I know is I can't go back in there, not while that thing is still in the house. I can hear Emma humming that song from here. It's faint, but I can hear it through the walls. And I think I see the curtain in her window moving, like something small is pushing it aside to look out at me.
I'm gonna tell you what happened, and you can believe it or not. I don't really care anymore. My name's Frank. I'm a retired firefighter. Live over in Phoenix, Arizona. Been divorced for 10 years, kids are grown and moved away. I got a little house, a workshop in the back where I tinker with old motorcycles. Keep to myself, mostly. That's how I like it. Last fall, my neighbor across the street, old Mrs. Gable, she passed away. Nice lady, used to bring me cookies at Christmas. Her kids came from back east to clear out her house. They had a big garage sale one weekend. I went over just to be polite, see if there was any tools or anything I could use. Place was packed with junk. Old lamps, boxes of books, kitchen stuff. I was poking around a table of knickknacks when I saw this doll. It was one of those creepy old ones, you know? Hard plastic head, soft body. Dressed in a little yellow sundress that was all faded. Its hair was this weird black paint chipping off. The eyes were glass, blue, wide open, staring. One of Mrs. Gable's daughters saw me looking at it. She laughed. "Ha, that thing? Mom had it since I was a kid. Creepiest damn thing I ever saw. We're asking $5 for it, but honestly, I'd pay someone to take it." I don't know why I bought it. Maybe I felt bad for it. Maybe I thought I could clean it up, give it to one of my grandkids. Stupid. I gave her $5 and took it home. I put it on a shelf in my workshop and forgot about it for a while. A couple weeks later, I was out in the workshop, working on an old Harley engine. It was late, maybe 11 at night. I had the radio on, some classic rock station. I was bent over the engine, wrench in hand, when I heard this little voice behind me. Frank. I spun around so fast I almost fell over. Nobody there, just my workbench, the tools on the wall, that doll sitting on the shelf. My heart was pounding. I told myself it was the radio, a commercial or something. I turned the radio off. The shop was dead quiet. I went back to work. Then I heard it again. Frank. A whisper, a little kid's whisper, coming from right behind me. I turned again. The shop was empty. But the doll? I could have sworn it was facing a different direction. I had put it facing the wall. Now it was facing me. Its little glass eyes were right on me. I grabbed the doll, walked out of the shop and threw it in the trash can next to the garage. I went inside, locked the door, and went to bed. I didn't sleep great.
The next morning, I went out to get the newspaper. The trash can was tipped over. Garbage was all over the driveway, and sitting on top of my car, on the hood, right in front of the windshield, was the doll. Just sitting there, legs out, staring at the house. At me. I live alone. Nobody would have done that as a joke. My nearest neighbor is 60 and deaf. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. I grabbed the doll, took it back to the workshop and put it in a metal toolbox. I shut the lid and latched it. Figured that would be the end of it. A few nights later, I was watching TV in the living room. Around midnight, I heard a banging noise coming from the kitchen. I got up, grabbed the fireplace poker I keep by the door, and went to check. The kitchen was empty, but the back door was wide open. I always lock that door at night. Always. Then I heard the banging again, coming from the workshop out back. I flipped on the backyard light and looked out the window. The workshop door was swinging open and shut in the wind, banging against the frame. I knew I had locked that workshop up tight. I went out there, poker in hand. I stepped inside and flipped the light on. The place was a mess. Tools were knocked off the wall. My workbench was cleared off, everything on the floor. And in the middle of the floor, the metal toolbox was lying on its side. The lid was open, empty. I heard a giggle from behind me. I spun around. The doll was standing on top of a stack of tires in the corner, standing on its little cloth legs, leaning against the wall. Its head was tilted. Those blue eyes were looking at me, and I swear they looked happy, like it was playing a game. I lost it. I grabbed the doll and threw it on the ground. I picked up a hammer and I smashed its head. I smashed it over and over until the plastic was in pieces. I ripped the cloth body apart. I took all the pieces and threw them in a bucket, poured gasoline on them, and lit them on fire. I stood there and watched them burn until they were just ashes. I felt relief. It was over. The next week was quiet. Nothing happened. I started to relax. I figured I had just let an old doll get in my head. I was embarrassed about it, honestly.
Then, about 10 days later, I was in the backyard, cleaning up the mess from that night. I was raking up the ashes from where I burned the doll, and under the ashes, I saw something. I brushed the ash away. It was a piece of plastic, a chunk of the doll's head, the part with one of the glass eyes. The eye was looking up at me. I picked it up, and right then I heard it, the giggle, clear as day, coming from my house. I looked up at the kitchen window, and there it was, the doll, whole, perfect, sitting on the kitchen counter looking out the window at me. Its little yellow sundress was bright and clean. I don't know how I got inside. I just ran. I burst into the kitchen. The doll was gone. I searched the whole house. Nothing. I was standing in the living room, breathing hard, trying to figure out what to do, when I saw my phone on the coffee table. The screen was lit up. I hadn't touched it. I walked over and looked at it. There was a text message on the screen from my own number. It was a picture of me standing in the living room looking confused. The picture was taken from the corner of the room, from the angle of the floor. And in the corner of the picture, you could see the edge of a little yellow sundress. I felt it then, a cold hand on my ankle. I looked down. The doll was on the floor right next to my foot. Its little plastic hand was wrapped around my leg. Its head was tilted all the way back, looking straight up at my face. Its mouth, that painted-on red smile, was open, and it spoke. Not a whisper this time, a clear, high-pitched little girl's voice. "I don't like fire, Frank." I kicked it across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor. Then it started to move. It pushed itself up on its little cloth arms. It started to crawl toward me, across the living room floor, dragging its legs, its broken, smashed, burned head turning slowly from side to side, those blue eyes locked on me. I ran out the front door, and I haven't been back. That was 3 days ago. I'm at my son's house in Flagstaff. He thinks I'm having a breakdown. Maybe I am. But last night, my son's dog started barking at the back door. Wouldn't stop. My son went to check. Nothing there. But this morning, I found something on the porch. A little piece of yellow fabric, like from an old sundress. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. I need someone to understand. It's not over. It's never over. You can smash it, you can burn it, you can throw it away. It doesn't matter. It always comes back, and it always finds you. I don't know what it wants. I don't know why it chose me, but I know one thing for sure. It's patient, and right now, it knows exactly where I am.